My name is Ariana. I'm 14. I want to share with you my story about survival in extreme conditions. This year, my parents celebrated 20 years of living together, and my dad gave my mom just a stunning gift, a trip on a cruise ship. My mom actually didn't expect to receive such a gift, although she had dreamt about it her whole life. And of course, she cried with happiness in anticipation of the journey. I cried too because I was really happy for my mom. The last year was really difficult for her. I think she deserved the fulfillment of her dream. I didn't want to go on a cruise with my parents at all, but the tickets were bought for 3 and I didn't want to upset my mother, so I had to pack for our trip. After 2 days, we got on the plane on which we had to fly to the port city from which our liner departs. On the plane, I met a professional diver who was also heading to the port. But he was going to sail along the coast in his yacht to avoid getting into the storm. What? What storm? I was scared. And this man said that over the past years, he has learned to analyze the behavior of the sea and predict the upcoming storms and hurricanes. And right now, very strong winds are expected in the sea. My dad interfered in our conversation and asked him not to scare the child and assured me that everything would be fine and that I should think only about our unforgettable vacation. I'd given it some thought and decided that my panic would just ruin not only my journey, but also the journey of my parents, so I got distracted by reading a book. That evening, we were already on the ship. I was just thrilled. It turned out to be so huge and beautiful. It seemed to me there was everything on board. All the pleasures, even a cinema and a pool. It turned out there was nothing to worry about traveling in this way. Small waves smoothly rocked us from time to time, and my parents and I sat at the table, slowly drank fruit juices, and enjoyed the sunset. When it got dark, I wanted to sleep and told my parents that I would go to the cabin and they could enjoy a beautiful evening alone with each other. They kissed me and promised they wouldn't stay out too long. When I got to the cabin, I immediately fell asleep since my day was very busy and I was very tired, packing my bags, the airport, flying, that crazy diver, and waiting to board the ship. I didn't know how much time I slept, but I woke up from the terribly loud sound that rang on the ship. Everything was swinging and spinning. It was difficult to understand what was happening, so I decided to try to get out of the cabin to find my parents. I hardly reached the door, and when I tried to open it, it was very difficult to keep my balance. I saw that water was flowing across the floor between the cabins from the side of the stairs, to which several people ran past me. When I left the cabin to run after them, the pressure of water sharply increased, and the unfortunate ones were simply washed away. I managed to come back. I started to panic. What's happening? Where are my parents? What should I do? Hundreds of thoughts were spinning in my head, but I couldn't focus on any of them. The only thing I remembered was the words of that diver who said that during a shipwreck, you need to identify which part of the ship is raised up and try to get to it. During the panic, it was difficult to determine. But after looking out of the cabin and looking at the movement of water, I assumed that I needed to go from the right side of the ship to the left and try to get to the stairs from which the water was flowing. Although I realized that this can be very dangerous if there is again a large pressure of water which washes away everything in its path. I quickly took my backpack with me. I put a small bottle of water, cookies, and a can of Pepsi from the minibar. I didn't know what was waiting for me. After a couple of minutes, I was in the cabin next to the stairs on the left side. It was impossible to move further. Water completely filled the lower part of the ship. The cabin was flooded below, and an air pocket was formed from above, so I climbed to the upper tier of the bed, and this became my hope of salvation. Even though I knew I'd probably have enough air for just a few hours. I had a terrible headache. I felt a lot of pressure in my eyes and ears. I thought about my parents and hoped that they were saved, and soon the help would come for me too. Soon the lights went out and darkness fell. I tried not to lose heart. I mentally recalled various poems from the school program, sang songs, and talked with myself aloud to keep my sanity. In the dark, I couldn't tell the time. I think I sometimes fell asleep, but I can't be sure of it. The drinks and cookies were very useful to me because at times I felt hunger and thirst. but I didn't know what was going to happen to me, so I tried to save the food as much as possible. Slowly, I began to realize that I didn't have enough air. I was afraid to panic so I wouldn't waste the rest of the oxygen. I tightly closed my eyes and slowly counted out loud, starting from 1,000 in the opposite direction. It distracted me from unpleasant thoughts. After some time, I heard some kind of noise. I wanted to start knocking on the wall, but what if it was my imagination? I had to save energy and oxygen in case I knew for sure that someone came for me. Soon, again, I heard a noise and saw a thin ray of light coming from the side of the stairs. It was necessary to act. I started pounding on the wall with an empty Pepsi can, and after a few minutes, I saw a diver who swam to my cabin. He said that everything was okay and he would sail away and I would begin to count. Before I got to 100, he would return with the help and equipment that was necessary to pull me out. 73, 74, 75. And here it was, the long-awaited help. There were 2 divers with a protective suit, mask, and scuba gear. I was quickly instructed on how to behave going up, how to use scuba gear, and told about the signs of divers, or rather about the meaning of their signs. We climbed very slowly, I think for ages. I didn't think I was so deep underwater. My eyes were hurting from the sunlight, so they put sunglasses on me. Rescuers helped me get on the boat that took me ashore, and then I was taken to the hospital by a helicopter where my parents were waiting for me. Oh, how happy I was to see them safe and sound. It turned out that when the wave covered the ship, they were prohibited to go down to find me. They put on life jackets and were picked up by the Coast Guard on a boat. All this time, my parents were really worried. They were told that there was no chance of finding me alive, and my salvation was a real miracle. In total, I stayed underwater for 65 hours. That's almost 3 days. Imagine. I believe that all meetings in our life are no coincidences. I don't think I could have survived if it wasn't for that diver from the plane. Have you ever had a story of getting into extreme situations? Share them in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.